on their Discord.
What? Why?
I don't,
Because
don't
Emerson
talk to
has
Emerson, man. I
access to
don't know.
roles.
I don't want to give that woman too much power.
I choose not to question what goes on in that Discord.
I just sit back and laugh at it.
Wow, we only have 3
User
topics
joined
for
your
this
channel.
community meeting.
And they're all juicers.
Are they?
I hope so. That's what Brad told me.
Posting Reddit stories in the Discord, discussions on how the CC is continued to evolve and grow. Whatever this is. I'm still struggling to wrap my head around this one, the last one.
Was it the Kuru Twitch phenomenon of 2023?
No.
Oh yeah, you missed that debate.
Oh no, I was reading it. It was juicy.
Yep.
Let's see. How can we start arguments in Doug General again? Let's see.
Oh man, it's so
There already is
easy.
one.
There's so many new people. You can just say like one sentence and it just goes off.
Yep.
Like,
Just
have-
drop a comment that KOS is good.
I imagine it's
I-
just in silence
or-
and no one, but it seems like it's all the same conversation,
Or do
unfortunately.
the great one and say, I think code lock should be removed again.
I think everyone's scared.
like I'm very surprised.
Everyone's pissed.
Because usually when new people show up, like it gets KOS-y, but it's like role reversal. There's just all these new people, and it's like the actual Dougies that are like doing the killing now for some reason.
User joined your channel.
Like sometimes I get tired of your people's shits.
User joined your
The
channel.
amount of crackheads that have just run around with like BK-18s just randomly shooting like anyone is just insane.
User in your channel timed out.
I've watched Jerry, like, you know, he's just walking into Leno, just doing his thing. He stops for 1 second, and a dude pops out of nowhere with a BK-18, kills him, and then just runs off. Doesn't even loot him. He just runs off. I'm just like, I'm like chasing the,
User
I'm
joined
like
your
chasing
channel.
this guy, being like, I kind of don't want to like kill him because like I was kind of impressed.
Pretty based.
I want to
Fucking
meet
guerrilla
him.
warfare.
It's just like, is this a true crackhead or is this like an alt account? Either way, that was a
User
good
joined your
kill.
channel.
I just wanted to congratulate him on killing
User
Jay.
entered your channel.
That's like some assassin shit. You lay for 3 days in wait, you're shitting and
User
pissing in
joined
your
your
own
channel.
fucking trousers, and
Oh,
you finally
dude.
get that one shot, and you're like, okay, see ya, I'm out.
User joined
Well,
your
he
channel.
just like he stopped for 1 second. He's like, oh, I gotta look at my inventory. Dead right away. Like, I'm like, oh, that was fast.
You just hear a voice and you bonsai.
I need to see, like, an actual banzai charge in Doug. Just people charging across a field with bayonets.
Oh, there was one. Oh, not with bayonets. Remember the
Mel
remember
Gibson?
remember the great spelling bee?
Well, that, yes, but we all had loaded guns. I mean, as far as I can tell. Well, aside from the cavemen. The
User
cavemen
joined
were
your
doing
channel.
caveman things.
The cavemen were the best people ever, charging there with bows and arrows. I gotta disrespect them so much.
Good
blasting
afternoon,
the war
gangsters.
drums.
Oh
What's
god.
up, my homie?
Another glowy.
Meow.
Who the fuck just went meow?
We don't need
Bread,
that
I
kitten
think.
shit here.
User joined your channel.
Someone say my name.
You're toasted, bread.
I didn't.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't,
Roasted, toasted, baked, baby.
I didn't say
That's
Sparky.
me.
I didn't call your name.
He's grilled.
Buttered.
Not Sparky,
User
Will.
joined your channel.
AR.
Well, I'm not.
User joined your channel. User
Alright, let's
joined your
just let
channel.
some people. I need to disable the join sound, actually.
You don't
That just
enjoy
reminded
hearing that
me.
every so often?
God damn it, Fox. They had like one job.
They're disabled now, so
Is it? I still
it's
hear
only
it.
a client-side thing. I can't disable.
Yeah,
I can't
Brad.
deafen all of you.
Why not? Make it happen.
I can
No.
deafen you if you want, Brad.
No, I'm okay.
Efficient.
And a silence fell across the land.
Is that what the
He's
kids
thinking
call
that's why you're
ratioed?
one of the real ones.
It's not what I wanted.
Oh, did not work? Oh, let me fix that. Hold on.
Oh, fucking Speaking of something, hey Fox, were you part of that little little gorilla attack on us like 2 days ago?
No, absolutely
Oh.
not.
I want to know who shot me twice with a DMR and didn't kill me. I was like surprised as much as the other person.
I think
New
Clyde's been
DMR?
running that lately.
Yeah, because
There's
I
a
was
couple
like,
of us that have DMRs.
I got hit in the arm, and I'm like, oh, they know where I am. And then I was stupidly decided to re-peek the same area, and then I got chested, and I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely learned from that one. I'm not going to do that again.
The intrusive thoughts, they always win.
Oh, I was just like, I think I know where they are. Lean, get hit again. I'm like, yep, they definitely know where I am.
Well, you gotta like, if you're not like crouch leaning and like peeking at the same time, are you really peeking right?
I was like, I'm not going to fuck with that DMR anymore. I just like backtracked. I'm like, yeah, you guys can fight this. I'm just going to heal up and like hobble away.
That thing's fucking
That
scary.
sounds like a no.
Dude, DMR is so scary. Like, you really don't know how effective it's going to be.
I've never seen one yet.
Didn't they like gigabuff it? Like
Yeah,
when
like-
the patch came out, it used to be like foul level, but now it's like tundra level or some shit. I heard
Yeah, like,
something
Yeah,
under
like
a-
it's literally the best game in the patch because they upped the bullet speed. Yeah.
Yeah, so like
Took,
under 100 meters, it's like a one-shot kill. Like an on-con, you're the plate.
It's 3 shots of the plate to down somebody before they changed it.
Oh,
It's like
Is
8-10. You can do an 8-10 meter kill unarmored.
I'm
Can
just saying, like,
can you still
man,
stun lock
like
people?
when you hear someone with that
Yes.
DMR,
Yes.
it's like a guess. It's
Okay.
Russian roulette at that point. It's like, well, man, you can die so fast with that gun.
Get good, icy.
I lived the skirmish
Facts.
attack,
Whoever said that, facts.
so
Yeah, fully.
kind of lived.
Yeah, peek harder, dude.
Yeah, got peeked twice. I learned my lesson.
Peek the same angle twice.
Yeah, I know. I kind of did an amateur oopsie
the
there.
definition of insanity right there.
Yep.
He definitely doesn't know exactly where I am. Peek it again.
Now he does.
Wanna see me do it again?
Oh, some people have been talking about stuttering happening in game.
Yeah.
And they're saying it's only happening with our server. I've been keeping an eye on the feedback tracker. It's not just us. There's
Oh,
more
is-
people who are popping up saying that there's issues where it'll freeze for like 10 seconds and there's nothing that they can do to move or anything.
I've
Oh,
only
I
seen
thought
that
it was
happen
my
to
internet.
Europeans.
Oh, like that rubber banding stutter, like lag thing.
Some people were saying it's, I guess maybe it's that, but there are instances where people are saying that their game completely freeze. They can't see anything. Nothing's updating, like one frame.
Oh, I haven't
Damn.
experienced that yet. What I have been experiencing is this random like rubber banding. Like I'll just be walking and then everyone will like slow down for like a half a second, then speed
Like
up.
entering a player bubble. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just more common.
That only happens in Zergs, I see. So
Thanks. Thank you.
Brad, do we have to remove your talking privileges before
no,
the meeting starts?
no. I'm being
Speed,
funny.
Speed run,
New
banned
record,
from meeting
Brad.
any percent.
I can't take his bread icon because then they take my skull icon.
Do not take my bread icon.
I don't make the rules, guys.
They came for the breads, and I did not speak up because I was not a bread.
This is
heavy.
the same thing with Red Chain.
I'll forever love Recluse for giving me this before he left.
His legacy. Well, we actually only have 3 topics for this meeting, which surprising. Though, of course, if people have anything else they want to bring up, feel free. Normal meeting stuff, if anyone's here for their first one. In the chat, if people are speaking and you'd like to get your piece in edgeways, then a queue just like that. I will keep track of who's in the queue and try and hopefully not miss anyone. Though if no one else is queued up and there's not really much being said, then feel free to just throw your hat in the ring. Anyway, first topic comes from Locke. I don't know if Locke is here.
He is not.
It appears they are not, yes. Well, simple enough. What is the admin team's, or everyone as a whole's, opinions on the fact that people post their Reddit stories on the Discord, leaving barely any incentive to get whitelist? There was a follow-up posted by Iron Rick asking about guidelines for what can and can't go in Discord, though there was quite a lengthy discussion in members general when this all happened, but if anyone else has anything they'd like to say on it, if the admins would like to speak on it, then by all means, the floor is yours.
Well, for me, like I understand that as a community, I think it should be like a Reddit thing, like as a group, because as a faction to get faction status and whatnot, you have to portray like a group story that is approved. But as an individual story, I don't think it should be a matter because a lot of the new people that are coming are trying to like create their own stories and their own personalities. So I don't think it would be a big thing if it was more of like an individual, because that doesn't really affect any type of like whitelist or faction status.
Wolf.
I think we chatted about this briefly with the admin team, but like in general, we would like to encourage people to keep, at least whitelisted people, encourage them to keep all their stories and all the Reddit stories basically to the Reddit, and not screenshot them and immediately post them in whatever channel in the Discord they're sharing the stories with. Or just copy paste them onto the Discord as well, because that kind of negates one of the privileges of having whitelist in the first place. So try to, if you're whitelisted and you have a story written, you feel free to share the story by like linking the post in the Discord. But I don't think it should be encouraged to post the whole thing for all non-whitelisted people to see it, because that kind of negates one of the reasonings for having whitelist. But if you're a non-whitelisted person and you have no other way of putting down a story, then obviously the Discord is where you can do it, because you have no other option, I guess.
Diesel.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and we haven't talked about this in length, but I'll share my personal thoughts on it, which again I haven't really shared with the rest of the team. But it's the idea of it's the Reddit is, Wolf was right. The Reddit is sort of where our members are at, but the other side of it, you got to think about. This is how I think about it. We're not trying to build. We have a community built here, and we want others to join it. But if you share everything about the community externally, they have no reason to, they have one less reason to want to join. So, and ideally, in a perfect world, which I understand is not going to happen, but in a perfect world, if everyone who really enjoyed Doug got onto the whitelist or wanted to get onto the whitelist, or what we call whitelist, let's call it membership maybe for this topic, then theoretically, we might get to the point someday where the server is just members only. It was that way for a long time, right? And the only reason the admin team at the time opened it up and started having these non-whitelisted days was because, interest was waning, and they were trying to, generate some traffic, but they were also trying to generate new members, right? Like, why couldn't you have new people join? They had password parties and stuff at the time. Like, the server was only open, like, I think there was like 3 or 4 days of whitelist. There was 1 day of password party, and the other days were open. Like, we were predominantly, when I first joined Doug anyway, I think like 2016 or 2017, I can't remember what it said. I think it was 2016. The server was predominantly members. Like, it was a members only server. Since then, we went through that big, sort of crash in DayZ at the end of 6.2, where there was like 4,000 concurrent players in all of DayZ. And we were one of those servers with 4 to 15 people playing every day. And it was a tough time. And we kind of dropped whitelist to try to encourage more people to come back. And, and we've just kept it off because it works, right? I mean, if I look at Dart at any point in time, generally speaking, the server is like 50%, maybe 60% sometimes of whitelisted people. Now, we don't always know. We weren't tracking things like alt accounts all the time. So, and that's where, we put this statement out like, okay, everyone already knows you can only have 2 accounts, but a lot of you guys' accounts aren't necessarily on the whitelist because we weren't doing whitelists. So a lot of you got your own accounts and we just didn't do anything with it because it really didn't matter. I'd like to actually start adding those people to the whitelist so that when I look at Dart, I can go, hey, 80% of the people on the server right now are members. They might be playing their alt account, they might not be, but they're still members. And I think that just adds to that. So back to the original point, posting your stories, I think it encourages people to join our community. It encourages them to care a little bit more about the community. You might say, well, they don't know what they're joining, but they're just gonna have to find out. Like they're gonna have to trust you guys, the fact that that there is something there. We're heading up on 10 years of Doug here, 10 years in March. There's a shitload of stuff that's happened years and years ago, granted, but this has always been the basis of Doug. It's that community. We want people to care about our community and we want them to join. So don't give everything away. And you're starting to see that. I think if you've been paying attention, like pretty soon, January 1, if you're not whitelisted, you can't have an alt. And we're going to take steps to that, right? Like, because we can track you. We know who's playing from the same IP. We know we have all this data and we're going to start using it. Again, it's to encourage people to apply for whitelists. All too often, lately in the Discord, again, we have this sort of miscommunication. A lot of players think they have to apply before they can join, and everyone tells them, hey, the server's open 24/7, and that's right. But I also see the message, hey, you don't need to apply for whitelist. And that's true, but it's not really what I want for Doug. I want people to join the whitelist. I want people to be members. So I don't really like the message going out to some people saying, hey, you can just play here. It doesn't matter. Because we do have, a ton of people not applying. And that I don't think that's good for our community. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
May.
I would just say, just posting stories as of recently and looking into Doug on Discord. Non-whitelisted people have not necessarily been the most friendly when you post your Reddit link, So it feels like there is a little bit more pressure if you're trying to post a story and you're just wanting to link it to the Discord to put your story there as well so you don't get negative comments, or I know a lot of sarcastic, like, great story from some of the non-whitelisters, So it's like it's a line you have to balance on. I definitely pushed to get whitelisted because I wanted to learn everything on the Reddit. I thought that was something super special. But yeah, I don't know. That was it. It was just that it feels like there's a lot more pressure that if you don't post your story on there as well, then people are going to be upset with you regardless.
Solus.
So regarding having your content public, I really can agree with Diesel more when it comes to like there has to be not an air of privilege there, but just something that we're creating. There's definitely the lore behind that. It's one of the privileges. I completely agree with that. But in looking at trying to avoid any type of pitfall that comes from being certain of anything, like I don't want to mention like Jimmy outright because he doesn't have much hubris with it and say I'm probably like psyched out for Jimmy more than maybe he would be for the community spotlight he got with his animation as well. But I feel, and from some of the things he shared with me personally as well as a member of our group, that he maybe not have pushed as much as he did to get that animation out or to attach his story, his character story to it if he hadn't had the opportunity to see some of what was made available to unwhitelisted people as well. So there's always the chance of missing out on people that may provide one-off things like that or continue to provide based on like their response. That's main thing there.
Oz.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that when we see people in the in general channels on the Discord asking about whitelist, and what, why they would ever do that. Obviously the Reddit is huge, but at the same time, some of the other things like being involved with the CCE is also super important. So yeah, keep that in mind and definitely make sure to tell people about that as well. Only because there's not very many servers that do that, like leave, mod additions and stuff like that totally up to the community to vote on. And I think it's something worthwhile and unique to Doug for sure. So
Stark.
Yeah, couple thoughts I had on this topic. First, when we were putting out a lot of things towards the end of the last wipe, it's one thing I've noticed is there tends to be a lot more community feedback and interaction when you're posting things to the Discord than there is to the subreddit. And sometimes, you get like 5 upvotes and no comments on a story, and it feels, at a time, it can feel like you're just throwing things into the void, and it's like, is anybody really even reading these? And no one wants that feeling of like the work that I spent time to write and put stuff. It was pointless or worthless. It didn't do anything, didn't make a difference. People want to see that, feedback on their stories. But I'll also be honest there. I don't use Reddit as much as I did 5 years ago. And I don't know if that goes the same for the other people. I'm on Discord far more often. If I see something that gets posted on Discord, I'm far more likely to comment on it because I have Discord up all day. Perhaps, a compromise to posting things on Discord where it seems they get more reactions is maybe we have a members only share content channel, so we can share in both places and make things more easily exposed so that content is more accessible, even just for the member community. Look at
Doc.
Yeah, actually, just to straight up build on what Stark just said there too. If you were to look at implementing something like that, where it's just member-only shared content in the Discord, maybe even something as simple as posting those Reddit stories, because a lot of times you'll see a Reddit story and then somebody posts a link to it in the shared content for everybody else that isn't in Reddit as often to actually see it, and having a channel like that where specifically just to post those links, being a hey, look, I just posted something on the Reddit for all of you that don't constantly check Reddit every single day. I think that also makes it a little bit better for those non-whitelisted members too, when they're not constantly having to see those links getting posted right on there, and it's like, well, great, thanks for sharing that. I can't read it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I do get the whole. It's like kind of dangling a carrot in front of their face, and then when they reach for it, you just kind of pull it away, like ah. No, it does kind of. I feel like it would. If you've got someone that's really interested in all the stories and stuff, then I could see it getting a bit frustrating. Though having a channel in the Discord where people can post their stories and just things that they want to keep members only, I think that's a good idea. Though I'm not sure what the staff team thinks about that.
I'm not going to create I'm personally going to be very against a members only share content. I would much rather you continue to post your Reddit links and non-whitelisted members continue to moan, because realistically, at least they know there is stuff that's happening. And if they really want to see it, it encourages them to join our community.
I was going to say exactly that as well, especially to you, May. If you're getting flack from people because they haven't become a member or they haven't put the time in to become a member and they can't see your stories and they're upset about it, I say let them cry about it. It sounds horrible, but
It's not horrible. I'm sorry to interject, but I think that's in reference to one specific incident that did happen in new share content. It was due to a Scarlet King story. A few unwhitelisted people had started writing like great story, and with that being the case, say it was even May reflected that. That's, I mean, it shows in a bit of entitlement that we don't want to see with people that
Yeah,
kind of just show up.
it's incredibly entitled, and yeah.
We've got the spotlight. I think I mentioned it in chat there, but just in case, like the community spotlight is for, realistically that reason. We don't post it for you guys. The community spotlight is so that we can post that out. We post it on the website. The stories are there in full content, all the pictures. We post it. We DM, like we send a tweet out about it. It's purely for non-members to see what's going on Doug. And so that they know stuff is happening here and they go, wow, that sounds cool. I want to be part of it. I mean, that's entirely the purpose. What else would it be for? You guys already have access to the stories. So, like you don't need the community spotlight. It's for outsiders to see. So we are sharing so that they do get a glimpse. They know what's happening periodically and they can get, it kind of drums up a bit of excitement, right? So, yeah, I don't know. That's all I can say about that. And as far as just them seeing links in Discord, again, at least they know stuff is happening here. And as far as the comment about like I'm in Discord all day, well, okay, but you just click a link and you open a website. I think Reddit is much better at keeping a log or a history, if you want to say it like that way, than Discord. Discord, you post your stuff and goddamn, man, like within seconds it's gone. Like, especially in an active Discord like ours. Like it's, that's the whole reason we went with this threads thing too, right? And especially in shared content, because stuff was getting posted and it was gone. If it was cool, it was gone in seconds because everyone was talking about it, and then the conversation switches, and then you lose track. You join shared content, and it's like 300 messages happened today. Okay, I'm not going to read all those. I'm going to skip to the bottom and see what happened, and you don't see it. So yeah, I think the Reddit is much better, and I think the threads are much better as far as keeping the content contained and people can talk about it because at least you know what they're talking about.
Iron Rick.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that there are some people who join who are seeking to get whitelisted and trying to figure out how to do that. And some of them are, like any of us here, some of us are more gamer types where they'll run around the map for a really long time, meet everybody and build story. Other people come more for a role play thing and they're thinking about story and they're curious about lore and they want to write something, they want to contribute something, but they don't know where to get that information. And then sometimes from what I'm hearing, people get declined for whitelist and they're like, they're not sure why, and they're worried that it's because they didn't integrate their story enough, but they go, how could I do that if I don't know, if I can't get access to it? So I don't really have a horse in the race of where the content should go and who should see it. I'm just saying that there's people interested in being part of the community who would integrate and contribute even more to it if they could see this stuff. I don't know what the solution would be, but this is something I've heard from more than one unwhitelisted player. Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, just to cotton on to that, I mean, the staff are actively working on other ways to exhibit the content you guys are creating and the lore you guys are creating to non-members. We are working actively on other things. One of those is the wiki. We're nearly there with it. It's going to be quite a good resource for anyone. So anyone with the website to come and look at what has gone on Doug in the past, stories, plot lines, content, all of that. So not everything's going to be on there. Obviously, the most fresh stuff will be on the Reddit, and you'll need to be a member for that. But that will be a window into what goes on here. Someone earlier said they felt like when they posted a story on Reddit, they weren't getting much feedback. They weren't sure if people were reading, is sort of going into the ether maybe. I'd like to personally assure whoever that was that, yeah, people do read them. I'll take my own recent post as an example. I just pulled it up while we were in this meeting. It's got, 12, 13 upvotes. It's got 3 comments, but nearly 400 people have looked at that post. So people are regularly going through the Reddit and looking at stuff. Including me. I read all of your stuff and I like a lot of it, even if I don't always comment.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Anything else they'd like to add to this topic? Anything like that? Or nothing more? If not, we can move on to the next topic. So, speak now or forever hold your peace. Scorpion, the topic is: what is the admin team's and everyone's opinions on the fact that people post their Reddit stories on the Discord, leaving barely any incentive to get whitelist? That's what we've been talking about the past 10-15 minutes or so. Go ahead, Scorpion. If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Sorry. So
There
in
you
my
go.
course throughout the game, I've met a lot of people that haven't cared about the Reddit so much. A lot of new people. Mostly because they just aren't interested. Versus back in the old days, a lot of people would get whitelisted. They get whitelisted on the special whitelist days. I think having more the content on a Discord makes it also easier for people to access because a lot more people are active on Discord. I am. I check the DayzUnderground Reddit maybe once a week. I read through the stories. I think though the Reddit's a good idea, like you said. It incentivizes people that want to get whitelisted. It depends what kind of people you want to get whitelisted too. If you want people that are more RP focused and writing stories and looking for the old lore, they're going to be the ones that want to join the Reddit versus people that are just here to have fun in a normal DayZ group. Maybe they play just to hang out with the big factions. Maybe they just want to live in the lore that's going on currently. I guess yeah, that's all I got.
No przyjdę jak skończę.
Go ahead, Solus.
So I think that kind of caps it off. Kind of ultimately, with the way the question was posed, there's no other way to answer it because it was posed like to kind of admins as a sense like, would you prefer your platform be used to share the stories? And like, yes, like all of us, I think would prefer that all of us had 100% buy-in on the Reddit and to be able to look at the stories just there. And like easier to read when people do get whitelisted over time after they've seen all these stories pass by. But I think ultimately there's nowhere for it to go as long as there's no real negative ire held towards people that do package that up for unwhitelisted people. Because ultimately it's not like a peer pressure, but say I've got one unwhitelisted person in our group and a few people looking to join that would be wanting that content as well. So naturally, I'm going to package that up in a way or a text file. I'm going to try to share anything, at least that's our lore, with our group at a minimum. And then say other unwhitelisted people want that as well. The person that's in our group that's unwhitelisted is friends with one other person that's unwhitelisted in another popular group. And that'll get shared there. And it feels moot in the end that that's going to get passed around in that way. Even that might actually be more attractive and get people to apply on its own. So it's a separate conversation. But I just think it shouldn't be, nobody should be kind of looked down on to provide that in a way for unwhitelisted people. But having been very barely involved with at least some parts of the wiki that involve the Outrider Caravan, that's going to be massive. I think I really do love the being able to hop on there and look through what bits of the articles have already kind of been put in place and stuff that we intend to put in there that's kind of cemented in at least what history we've been able to be a part of, and that's going to be huge for anybody interested in like applying as well. There's not really like it's kind of a non-issue. I mean, with the question as asked, yes, we would prefer everyone to just do the Reddit link and post it in the Reddit story, but it's a living community that's trying to grow, like we've talked about. That's all.
Alex, go ahead.
I think partially what we should do is maybe just rename the whitelist process into just like a membership, because I think there's like a stigma with how whitelisting works in our server versus others, and I think people either A, get discouraged to apply for it, or B, are intimidated. I guess that's the same thing, but so maybe we can just move in a direction where it's like call it like a membership, whatever you want to do. I think we'll get a higher influx of people applying. I don't even know how many people are applying, but a lot of people are just...
It's alright if I address this.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Quite a few people are applying at the moment. More than usual, I'd say. As for changing whitelist, changing the perks, changing the name, things like that, we are actively taking a look at whitelist or membership or whatever you want to call it, and looking at making changes to that.
I don't think like necessarily like even if it's just a whitelist, right, and you just change the name of it, same perks. I don't want anything to change like in that thing, because me personally, like getting whitelisted on this server was a huge thing to me, at least, and I don't want to take that from other people. I don't want to take that experience away from people, you know. So, however we go about in the future with the whitelist and things like that, I think that's something we need to kind of vocalize on, as opposed to the Reddit stuff. The Reddit stuff should just say how it is, and just post
It's
things
something
on the Reddit.
we're actively reviewing. Yeah.
That's all I got.
Right. We should probably get moving on to the next topic. I feel like all that can be said about this has been said. Anyway, next topic comes from Echo, who I don't think is here. Seemingly not. Right. Discussion on how the CCE has continued to evolve and grow with more usage. Is the community happy with the progress of the CCE? What could be done, if anything, to improve it? Anyone have any thoughts on this? Any thoughts from mod team admins? Oh, go ahead, Solus.
Am I still on? Oh yeah, I am. Say the one thing I wanted to mention, I popped in group and faction chat at some point about a month or so ago when the last one was closed out. We're at about 4 official, like full CCE votes now, with the full wing of representatives from the different groups, and the solo people or solo groups being represented there. At least 5 votes from a group of people that try to represent different solo interests on the server, and we're very high participation on that. Probably 76 out of 78, I think, is the close to the numbers. I have them put away here, but total participation in that across the whole time. And I think that's huge. I'm actually in love with the CCE, the way that ends up playing out. And I keep track of the votes, or I try to, in a tracker channel on our channel, in our Discord that I share with people. I'm afraid, though, that the topic was put in the community meeting channel just kind of like as a guise, because it was specifically a question about how often a topic can come back up for rediscussion, which, I mean, I didn't want that to get buried or hidden away, because it's almost like that was one for one. That's why it was posted over there. And I feel like that was disingenuous. I feel like there's a lot of well-known things we've talked about between Kubru, the Occluders, and anything else. Like even Leftovers is now on the second chance, which is now going for a full vote when it didn't the last time. I don't think there's really an issue with stuff coming back up for rediscussion, and I think that's so far been very reasonably handled. So that would just be my own comment on that specific aspect, and that's all.
Stark is next. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I feel like I would have some feedback for the CC suggestions channel on Discord. I feel like could use some improvement in some aspect. Some of we saw in like the last month, some of the topics and suggestion discussion got a little toxic and unfriendly. And sometimes the sort of progression from like suggestions to discussion to voting maybe is a little unclear. Like, at what point do we move things from suggestions to discussions? Like, what's the thumbs up ratio or amount of thumbs up you need to get something to be voted on, or anything like that? I don't know if I have a suggested solution for it, but speaking for like several members of our faction, we've almost we're like talking amongst ourselves. We're like, man, do we even really want to participate in this anymore? Because it feels kind of pointless.
Are you asking about how things go from the suggestion channel to the discussion where people talk about it and then start voting?
Yeah.
Well, that's basically up to group and faction reps. So if the leaders and the reps can basically, whenever they feel like anything is cool enough or interesting enough to be brought forward, they're the people who basically start the thread in the discussions channel. That's when it starts getting talked to, and when people feel like they've come to a conclusion about it, then they start voting. So group and faction leaders are the people who take it from suggestion to discussion. If you think something is cool but nobody is bringing it up to the suggestion page, then just ask your reps or like your leaders from your group or anyone else you know from another group. If they want to do it, then they can basically boost that over to suggestions.
Yeah, this was discussed, entirely on the Reddit originally. And if you search my name, if you see, you just click my Reddit profile and click on posts, and you'll see all the posts. You'll see all the voting posts, and you'll see the post where we discussed like how the CCE works. I can even post that and pin it in Discord. I just in the groups and factions chat, so that people that are new. It's probably a good point. There could be groups that come in, let's say tomorrow, for instance, and they go, I don't know how that CCE works, and they don't know how to find things on Reddit. So we can just make it a pin there. But what Wolf said is entirely like, originally the plan was that there would be no suggestions channel. Like, that was not part of my idea behind the CCE, because we had a suggestions channel for years, and where it was just the mods looking at it, and we would decide what we wanted to take or not take, or we just sort of gauging the interest in things, and we decided everything about the mod and the server. And initially it was good, but eventually it just became people yelling into the void, like, I've got a random thought and I'm going to type it into Discord, and you'd get suggestions that are not well thought out. Some of them just, you get like half of a thought because the person didn't communicate properly. And the mod team just eventually started ignoring the suggestions channel because it was just people yelling into the void. Like, and not that they were yelling into the void and weren't being heard. They were just saying stuff because they could. And a lot of it was, some of it wasn't even serious. And we went for a while where, or at least I would just delete suggestions that weren't serious. And then some people got upset because one day I think I deleted somebody's suggestion that I thought was entirely in jest and they were entirely serious. So, we quit that. And anyway, like, it's, when I approached this subject with the CCE people, like the GAF people, when we had a meeting about it here in TeamSpeak one day, and it was them that said, well, we'd rather have a channel where non-CCE, non-GAF people can make suggestions that we can just sort of flesh things out in before we really take them for a vote. But my original intention was that if you had an idea, you would talk about it amongst your group, you would flesh it out with your CCE rep, like with your GAF rep, and then that GAF rep, if they thought it was worthwhile, they would post it as a suggestion where it would get discussed deeper, like it still happens, and then before you call a vote. But it was the GAF reps that wanted the channel. And at first I thought it was good. I'll be honest, lately it's kind of going back to just people not fleshing out their ideas. And I think that's why you get so much discussion, and people are starting to try to use emoticons to upvote and stuff like that. Like, I mean, it's great and all, but it really doesn't mean that it's a fleshed out idea or that it's really a good idea. Like, and I was trying to encourage people to flesh it out on their own outside of the Doug Discord so that you would have less discussion, so that it would come as a solid idea and, properly thought out. But, that's a learning curve. To a certain degree, sometimes you guys have to, you don't necessarily see the downside of your suggestions all the time. And sometimes you'll see me, that's where I comment sometimes, because I look at it, something and go, wow, that's majorly exploitable right away. But, and I've done that before. And some people go, oh, I never thought about it that way. And that's because you're just having more minds think about things. And that's just part of it. But sometimes you do have to think of, how is this going to bust, right? How can I bust this suggestion? And that's where the fleshing out comes from. But yeah, like that's how it works. As far as you not wanting to take part in it, well, and I think I've heard that from at least one other group. They say, well, I don't want to take part in this. But if you're a member of this community and, you care about this community, I think you should want to be involved enough to decide what's happening within your community. We've literally given you that power. And to say you don't want to be involved, well, I'll be blunt and honest. I wonder what you think about this community if you just don't give a shit. Anyway, that's my take.
Iron Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to speak up for my group member there. I don't think he was saying that he doesn't want to participate or that anyone in our group doesn't want to participate overall. The chatter that's happened mostly for us, like everybody that has the privileges to votes. I myself have stopped engaging in the CCE discussions because a lot of the time it seems like someone will say, they'll give their reasoning for a change or their reasoning in the form of a question. And a lot of people's answers are simply, that doesn't affect me, or I've never observed that. And there's sort of a lack of putting ourselves in the other person's shoes. Like, if it's something that's never affected me, I shouldn't have a strong opinion, but there's a lot of sort of invalidation of people, and then people try to clarify themselves, and then it becomes an argument. So for me personally, I read them all and I just vote now, because every time I've tried to engage, I always end up exchanging with people not in a productive way, and I don't really understand why it ends up that way. So I would say that just speaking up for my friend, Stark definitely gives a shit. It's just we don't really want to get into toxic back and forths.
Wolf, go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes to toxicity, discussing a lot of these CC suggestions, I've had people reach out to me in private being like, we feel like we're being shit talked essentially because we voted against something and we didn't like post a 5-paragraph reasoning behind why we posted this, or somebody downvoted something and then basically sounds people have been downvoting things but they haven't been providing explanations and stuff like that. So now your suggestion, or whoever else's suggestion that you liked, didn't go through because somebody downvoted, but they didn't provide an explanation. That doesn't give you the right to start arguing about that in different channels, being like, great, another suggestion that I liked didn't happen because someone didn't even explain why. So now I'm gonna start throwing shade their way and being aggressive in that matter. You have to understand that this is kind of like a democracy system. It's not a system where everybody needs to explain their actions and their intentions behind every single vote they do. People have lives, people have opinions that sometimes they don't want to share with you. At the end of the day, they are actually contributing to the community by voting, and that's kind of what they are meant to do. That is a necessity. It's not a necessity to explain themselves to the fullest and basically have their opinion be ran through and picked through by everybody else who disagrees in that thread. So please be more mindful towards people. When something doesn't go your way, that doesn't mean that the people voting against it are at fault.
Go ahead, Diesel.
Yeah. No, I just want to. I basically Wolf summarized it. Yeah, I didn't like this. It was recently. It was somebody said, "Well, I just want to know why people are voting no." Well, I can understand you wanting to know, but it led to, it led to a lot of toxic comments in our Discord, and it just leads to fighting. Like, just accept the fact that they didn't like your idea for whatever reason. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, you might get them to share it. Maybe they just didn't like it. Maybe they didn't think it was fleshed out enough in the way it was worded that it was worth saying yes to. And I guess maybe to a certain degree that might be nice to know. But I mean, yeah, as Wolf said, just accept that people didn't like your suggested change, and you have to just deal with that. Asking people why, it just calls them out and it makes them hesitate, not wanting to say no to something, especially if they're in the minority. They have that right, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Another thing too is for some of the more minor CCE suggestions, and this is me personally, for me, the CCE was implemented to, implement additions to the Doug mod and to the server that are impactful to every player. Like every player, or at least a majority of players, are going to notice this change. That's likely going to be unique to Doug. So when I see these more minor changes, like, oh, I really need to dye my slippers a different color, I almost immediately downvote or don't support those suggestions, because where does that end? When does the list end? And if we implement this one minor idea, why shouldn't we implement all the minor and less impactful ideas? So and then when it comes to people not sharing their opinion, or maybe downvoting and not sharing in length why they made that decision, I mean, yeah, like we've said already here before me, like a lot of times that turns into a massive dog pile and gets toxic insanely quickly. So I can't always blame people for not sharing their explanation. Sure, when they do, it's useful. And sometimes, they reach out to other people in particular and just not in a discussion thread, but it has led to some toxic comments and stuff like that. So
Go ahead, Solus.
I would say the last part Oz mentioned there is going to be the key, kind of like how Diesel had touched on partially as well. Like all of the CC discussion and kind of the back and forth and determining where people's positions are on things. Not all of it was always meant to occur in black and white and Discord text. Like, we're a group of community members that should be comfortable reaching out to one another, if not individual to individual, if we can't be respectful enough for that, but group to group, if there really needs to be a discussion had on maybe why this group's preventing something going forward with no, and there's enough of a rapport that you can have that discussion like adults, then that can happen there as well. But I'd say that's going to be ultimately it. Is nothing, all of it, just because you see a downvote and maybe not a Discord paragraph exactly correlating to that downvote, it doesn't mean that that person's not shared with a number of people, maybe even the most important people, why they voted no or why they've chosen to vote no. That could maybe not be their direct vote. It could be what they've chosen to vote based on the influence of a number of people within their own group, or what they've seen the community kind of reflect on a discussion topic. So it's absolutely something that's, any more than you see publicly, doesn't really have to be fished out unless you are respectful enough to approach that and figure out a way to get that as a adult in the community. That's all.
Go ahead, Onryo.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep. Loud and clear for me.
So I just want to address two of the comments. First, Wolfie's one. I do agree that people shouldn't be forced to explain their reasoning for their vote, but I do have to comment that sometimes it can be helpful if people don't understand the suggestion in its entirety. I know there's been at least two situations where I voted no on something and someone added me and I explained why I voted it, and then they countered it, rebutted it, and then I agreed and then voted the opposite. So it can lead to some progress, so that's worth taking into account. But yeah, there is that dichotomy of, people aren't forced to just share their opinion, especially if they're afraid to get just shit on publicly. And Next, I was wanting to address Oz's comment where he said that he downvotes a lot of the minor suggestions, and I do agree that if it's a suggestion where you're adding something like a piece of content, then yeah, you can clutter up the server with the amount of mods and things you're adding. But small suggestions where you're like adjusting a value of something, there's nothing wrong with lots of changes like that. That is how balance works. There's an ebb and flow of balance that you need to keep on top of. So it's like, changing the damage of like a weapon or something here and there. I think we need to still keep on top of small suggestions like that. That's all I want to say.
Anyone have any further thoughts? Oh, go ahead, Wolf.
Yeah, well, I just like to, like, nobody's gonna deny that giving context to why you're downvoting something is useful. That is useful. But I also wanna say that there are proper ways to ask somebody why they downvoted something, and then there are toxic ways to do it. And on top of that, there's ways to provide context for these people and help them understand the suggestion better. And there are ways where you can just ping them, keep asking them, and keep basically forcefully coercing them into saying yes, which is a problem. That's not something anybody should do. Like, it's okay to ask, just be tasteful and considerate when you're asking. And again, like, for everybody who is the person being asked or being questioned why you've been downvoting something, do not feel the need to explain yourself if you don't want to, and do not feel the need to be do not feel any pressure to be coerced into changing your vote just because people are disagreeing with you. Again, this has to be something that is, you have to think to yourself, is this something you want to see in the game or whatever kind of change it is, and then truthfully base your vote on what you think. So that's basically it.
Go ahead, Desync.
This doesn't entirely deal with the situation at hand, but I wanted to note that I know I myself, pretty much every day, I look at every suggestion that is there, and regardless of how downvoted it is, upvoted it is, whatever stage it's in, if I like it, I will see what can be explored with it in the hopes that it can be added. For instance, somebody just off the cuff asked for Winter Chinaris, and when I saw that, I was interested in pursuing that. So I worked on that, and then I had some real life stuff happen that wasn't the best, and it gave me an outlet to just hyper focus on that for literally just 2 weeks straight, and now we have Winter Chinaris with a bunch of unique aspects of stuff. There's also some stuff that's being massively not really enjoyed, not really liked, but there are things that can be potentially taken from it and proved upon, regardless if that's not what the original suggestion was intended with it. And I think it could provide a very nice quality of life. If not, it can help further specific interactions by adding, that unique batch of flavor or whatever. But then there are other instances where you'll see something that looks solely selfish, and it makes me think to myself, well, why are we doing this? Why is this person uniquely pointing out just like this one aspect of it when they should be, instead, if they are valuing the entire community as a whole, they should be just looking at it as a broad instead of just like at one little hyper instance of it. Which is why I think in the future, if we see stuff like that, we'll probably just be moving into veto that stuff from now on. Does that mean that I don't want you to suggest shit? Not entirely. I mean, you're always free to do so, and people are free to vote. But at the end of the day, if we feel it's needed, we will step in and make the choice if it's needed. And so far, I think everybody has been more or less happy. I know there's been a couple of instances where it was like, well, why isn't the CC being fully utilized for this type of stuff? And there are instances where it just simply comes down to where we need to step in just for the betterment or just to see what can happen. just again, we want to test the waters in some instances. We want to experiment with other things in the hopes that we can get a good outcome that helps everyone and it helps further stuff in the future. For instance, like at some point we'll be reverting back to regular Chernarus, but as for the winter season, I think so far people have had a resounding happiness with it and they want to see it stick around for as long as possible. But again, at some point it's going to be gone. We'll be reverting back to what it is, but we'll take this as a good lesson as to what we can see to be added to the future of the server. Like for instance, like just map rotation that is purely for flavor, that just enhances, doesn't take away anything, doesn't like I wouldn't see us like switching to a server like or a map like Deer Isle or GMC or whatever. We'd be like Summer Chernarus or some other rendition of that. New locations added to the map, etc. Because as far as I'm aware, you guys are okay with me and other members of the mod team. If we feel it needs to be added, it's going to be. And I hope so far we have not disappointed you guys too much. I know there's a lot of outstanding CC things some people have noted. And as far as I'm aware, stuff is being worked on where it can be. I know there's a couple of roadblocks with stuff, like models not working, scripting stuff not working properly. But we're trying to reach out to people when we can, and in the hopes that we can both improve upon each other. I know, like for instance, we had a big block for Winter Chernarus for some folks because they were of the opinion that it was killing a playstyle. And we literally had a member of our community step up and say, hey, I can fix this. I can do this. And he did. And he literally not just improved Doug, he helped improve a entirely another mod that's being ran by several different servers as well. That's all I got.
Well, short of anything else people want to say, I feel like that could be a good point to close this discussion and move to our third and final topic for tonight. This topic was proposed by Doc of the Merrymen, so if you would like to take it away. First person that's put up a topic and has actually been here.
Hey!
Fucking yay.
Can I get a Dougie?
Come back in a month.
No, I just threw this one out there because this is a little bit. Can't remember how long ago I did post that, so obviously things have played out, since then. But I do know when that change with the removing non-whitelist people from the questions and answers panel was made, there was a lot of, I think, confusion and just unknowns, and it seemed like a lot of people were discussing it in the member chat, and maybe everybody feels okay with it, but I wasn't sure, I guess, at this point, if it's something that's still, I guess, what y'all are looking for, just because I do see quite often a lot of non-whitelisted members just now asking their questions in the Doug General, and being I can't see the new channel that you guys made just for the non-whitelisted members, I don't know how much that's getting used, and if it's to a point you all like it. I just wanted to address that and ask how you guys feel about it.
All right. I guess I'll say a couple of things. Number one, I think the main reason behind it was a lot of dogpiling. Like we were seeing a ton of dogpiling going on. Someone coming in and venting, and that happens still in Doug General, and it's going to happen, but we hope it doesn't happen as much. But someone comes in and says something. Sometimes they say something maybe controversial or they're upset at the time, and it gets handled, normally. But like Doug members are extremely voracious sometimes, very protective of this community, which is great, but sometimes a little too much. And that's when the dogpiling happens. So a question will get answered sometimes 3 times, sometimes 14 times, and it really doesn't have to be. If there's a good answer, you don't need to add on to it, even if it's positive, like the person got their answer. That's all that needs to be said. There doesn't need to be 2 and 3 answers. And I can understand that sometimes people are trying to answer it multiple times, but it just still creates it. The question gets buried at that point too. That's the other problem. So even if the answer is valid, having it get answered 3 or 4 times, it just pushes that question up the channel some. And so if you're going to answer a question, scroll, before you start madly typing, make sure that it hasn't been answered yet. If it has, great. You know what I mean? That's all that needs to be said. But the dogpiling, we were noticing that a lot. Someone coming in, being frustrated, maybe putting that out there in the questions and answers thing, and then the dogpiling happens. That person feels probably terrible. It's just like, it's a real negative experience for this community. And then even worse is that another member comes in, sees the topic, because they start at the top. Oh, here's my unread messages in Discord. And then they start adding on to it. And sometimes like up to 5 hours have gone by and you still see people commenting on something. It's like, yeah, that's over now. Like, you know what I mean? It was 5 hours ago. You don't need to, so, and then it just comes right back up because they reply to the person. So then that person that originally said something, who they're already had a strip ripped off of them by the community in the first 20 minutes of their comment. 5 hours later they're right back into it, and they, for whatever reason, they feel they got to comment back again because you made another comment, and it just starts it all up again. I've joined questions and answers and there have been 300 plus unread messages, and like, wow, like I just kind of go, yeah, like what happened here, right? Because there's no way. I read Discord a lot, and I read every channel except for off topic, because, well, anyway, that's off topic, and I don't really care about off topic, but I shouldn't see 300 messages in a channel for as often as I look at Discord. And when that happens, I just started looking, and I read them all. Don't think I don't scroll to the bottom. I read them all, and it's just like, yeah, this shouldn't have happened. But it's, sometimes hours later, and it's like, well, I'm not going to bring it up again because it's over. But so why it was removed, we wanted to control the narrative on some of the more basic questions. Sometimes, like the dogpiling, it's just got to end. It really does. It really has to end. It's a real negative point for the community, and we don't like it. So taking you guys out of the equation removes that. Yes, it can still happen in Jug General, but that's a risk we have to take. Is the channel being used? Yes, it is. And I think I seen somebody comment the day it happened, like, oh, well, what's the point of questions and answers? Well, I think you can see that questions and answers is still used a lot by our members for valid questions, and we get great answers there. You guys are excellent at answering questions. But so are we. And we wanted to just be able to have one answer to a question and just direct people a little more. We don't need the dogpiling. There has been the odd time too. It doesn't happen frequently, I will admit, but sometimes the answers given are wrong and they don't get corrected fast enough, right? Because we're not always there, or, there's a lot of messages going by. And so that's not always a good thing either. So, because people get the wrong information sometimes. So again, it's just controlling that narrative, and letting us actually answer people's, non-members questions. A lot of people they're brand new to Doug, and I just think it's better that the admins handle some of those questions. It's nothing really against you guys. It's just really, we can answer them just as well as you guys can. On the other side of it, and this is going to sound maybe bad, but it's not really bad, but I don't think this really should have been brought up as a question. Like, it's not a CCE type thing. Like, you guys have to have some faith in us. The Discord is ours. The rules are ours. If we want to do something, we're going to do it. We don't need your permission. You know what I mean? Like, we try to involve you guys as much as possible. We really do. We think about different things, but if we make a channel that's only for members or only for non-members, I'm sorry, but I don't think you guys really get to say in that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just trust us. Again, that really sounds negative, but it's not. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how else to say that. It's just, we're not insulting you, but sometimes, we get to run this community, And if you want to be part of that, then the next time applications open up, by all means, throw your name into the hat.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that definitely provides plenty of clarity. And I know a lot of like things when we were talking about the CCE prior, or even just the Winter Chinaris being added in when Diesel was mentioning all that, or I'm sorry, desync, like making those decisions on your guys' own is still always going to be a thing too. So I get that for sure. Whoever's next in queue, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, these explained our position very well. I just wanted to add that I've checked some of the messages we were getting in Q&A before we separated off non-members, and some of the people we get speaking up in there and asking questions, it's their first time saying anything on Doug. That's their first experience of the community. And we were seeing a lot of derisive, or even in some cases just outward hostile responses to things in there. One thing you could say, instead of separating the channels, you could say, why don't you just moderate it more heavily? But the problem is that the damage is already done at that point. If someone's first experience of the community is getting dogpiled, looked down on in some way, patronized, then that can't be undone just by moderating the channel, because that damage has been done. That's all I really wanted to say. We're very mindful that sometimes this is the first interaction they're having with the community at all, and we want to control that to a certain extent.
I mean, yeah, no amount of extra moderation on the channel is gonna change it if they just leave the Discord after that experience, so makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's their first impression, and they're already hit with a bunch of shit. Yeah, so we don't want that.
Well, anyone else have anything they'd like to say on this topic? I feel like it is pretty cut and dry.
Bertha, I can answer that. We have considered it. It is a potential use for the helpful role. We want to see how it works as it is first for a more extended period of time before we do anything. At the moment, it's going pretty well. We're pretty happy with it. But if we ever feel like people's questions aren't getting answered quickly enough, or there's some issue with staffing, then maybe that's something we'll look into.
Makes sense. Well, if no one else has anything to say on this, of course, the floor is yours if you do have anything to say, but that's our last scheduled topic. I don't know if anyone has anything else they'd like to bring up, anything else they'd like to... Oh, go ahead, Desync.
Yes, this is something we have been discussing about in terms of the... mainly, this has been pointed towards group and faction members. But we're going to be doing this now for the community as a whole. And it comes down to, we've had some questions regarding group limit sizes when roaming and other situations. And we wanted to come forward and let you guys know this is going to be a more or less a rule going forward, in that when we see people roaming, we do not want to see any more than 5 at a time. And we've also had some people come to ask us about situations that may require more than 5 for certain reasons, be it roleplay, etc. And we are asking you, or rather telling you, that if a situation like this pops up, before you pursue it, we need you guys to contact us in some form, and we can give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the amount of people you're bringing to a situation. And if we see that people are choosing not to reach out to us or are ignoring our suggestion, depending on what's going on, we would more than likely slap anybody involved with a temporary ban, and we would list to you the duration of said ban. Now, would this be something you do to appeal? Depending on how much you guys are caught doing it? No. until we see something severe with it.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to say on this?
Keep in point, we'd like to hear some feedback and questions at all if needed, and I'm sure a few of us can try to answer. But depending on what goes on with that, you should be seeing something here in the next couple of days, an official announcement with it being added to the rules page.
Go ahead, Stark.
Yeah, so was thinking about it. Want to ask a hypothetical on like how we would treat a situation. So let me keep it. And this is something that happened in the game a couple days ago, where we were chasing somebody that shot at some people, and then we ran into another, like we were a group of 3 people, and then we ran into another group of 3 people who were also following that same person. Should we have and then we ended up walking with them for a while, and we didn't end up finding whoever it was we were chasing, but that would be like 6 people. So with this new rule that now, would we just have to be like, okay, bye, you guys go stand 100 meters over there and do your own thing or whatever?
As far as we're concerned, again, I'd like to keep hypotheticals as far away from this, because as far as we're concerned, we'd rather care about an instance that's actually occurred, as we've been taking this case-by-case basis, as we know this is a touchy subject and the framework is still being built for what we want to see and not see. So for an instance like that, I would have to say, again, 3 people and you're running to 3 to make it 6. My recommendation is you sit there, you discuss for whatever you need to do, and then you both go your separate ways. Even if it is trying to find this individual, you don't have to roam together to find him or them.
Bertha. Assuming you two are done.
I know you guys don't like to put like defined limits. What would you classify as roaming? Does that mean if you're in your territory, I assume that you can be in a greater group, or a group like FL where we don't really have a territory? Can 6 of us converge on one place to have a meeting, then kind of separate and go our separate ways? So we're not really roaming, we're doing a meeting or something in that nature.
Yeah, as far as territories go, I mean, and while we're not involved with the map, and we don't want to be involved with the map, and we're going to continue that, I think, you can roam in your territory with more than 5 if you really feel the need to, but be warned that we may react to that. Like, we don't see an issue. We haven't seen an issue yet with that. We do see some groups have reached out to us and said, hey, like, if we need to handle stuff in our territory, we want to go with more than, the 5. That's already come up, and we discussed it, and, there was some back and forth, and then we went away and kind of came back and said, okay, we can see the reasoning behind that. But what we don't want to see is, one, like, just never leaving your territory so that you can roam in more than groups of 5. I mean, one, I think the rest of the server will quickly catch on, and you just won't get visitors. And that's not going to be enjoyable for you or anybody else. The other side of it is, well, you're just not moving around, and obviously, that's going to go against you, right? As far as like faction status or anything else. But, we will react to that as, like, if you guys try to rule lawyer this, we're going to react, because this is, we want to see a fair play environment for the server. And again, it might sound bad, but that's what we're going to get, right? Like, because we control that aspect of the server. So we want a more open and fair environment for the server. And for now, that's what we're going to do. So this is what we have today for that. I think the map committee, before you start thinking about, well, what about if a group just starts expanding their territory? I think the map committee has been really good. You guys are the map committee in a lot of cases. So the map committee has been really good about managing that on its own. And we've seen over the past number of years, a lot of you guys actually have shrunk your territory. And that's great. You know what I mean? Like that, it really, because it was out of control for the longest time. And I think the map committee did an excellent job on handling that. And when I say that, I really mean you guys. The community came together and made a good decision for the health of the community. So, keep doing that. But, certainly, yeah, we will, if the MAC committee doesn't do anything about it, then you will see a reaction if territory just starts growing for no real reason. And
Is it okay if I interject?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
As the convener, I guess you could say, of the map, I will not react well to people trying to boost their territory because they feel it will allow them to bend the rules. I'm going to be just as strict on making sure that people are claiming areas they actually belong in as before. So don't consider that.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll see like people claiming two territories. Like even if you are technically, meeting all the rules within the map committee, because I know of the rules, but again, I just think that the map committee will handle those things internally, and you guys have been knocking it out of the park. But yeah, like don't try to rules lawyer us. Don't try to, it's just not going to work, and it's not going to end well for you.
Alex, you're up.
So I just wanted this kind of directly at the admins. How we operate in ORCC. I mean, everybody that hops on the server and grabs a map nowadays, they see a trade post and they want to come to it. And I don't like we don't really have an issue with like where we have like millions of people ourselves. Like we'll have a bunch of people come by and stuff. But I don't want it to, I guess for lack of a better term, be something that like affects our business in that aspect. Like I don't want to have like, I'll just like 506 rolls up and they want to buy something, and then while they're there, like I don't know, Torchwood shows up and they want to buy something. Like will that be something that we'll have to kind of like in a way like direct them away for a second so that we can kind of cycle people faster? Like how would you want us to handle that? And I know that's like kind of
no, I mean that
just us, but I just want to make sure that A, we're doing it right, and B, like we're doing it effectively.
There is a tendency for many individuals to pile up in a way that could be like
that's going to happen, right? That's an organic meetup.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like I'll give you sort of an example of this. So we did have a ticket at one point saying, "Hey, we think two groups are working together." Sort of and essentially became like a Zerg, and we just want to check in on it. Like I just want, like, we're not sure, but we're pretty sure. They felt sure enough that they wanted to put a ticket in, and when we looked at the logs, they just got sandwiched between two groups. And I told them that, like, I looked at it and made sure that, hey, these, because again, it was like, well, these are groups that generally cooperate, and or they thought they were, and it was like, okay, that's a fair ticket, that's a fair assumption, without giving any details away. And I didn't give any details away even to those people, like who actually was involved. They just said, you get sandwiched, just so they could have some peace of mind. And it just happens. And yeah, a place like trade locations or community camps, you are still going to have groups meeting up there. And there may be times where there's 15 people in an area that, but like, I don't know, like that's natural, that's natural. And especially when you're talking about your location. Yes, I know. And, maybe some trades can take a long time and you have those people milling about. But generally speaking, I think if I'm coming to trade something, that's going to happen fairly quickly, and I'm going to move on. And I'm going to move on for my own health, because I don't want to be trapped at your location when someone else rolls up on me that maybe doesn't like me, right? So I want to get out of there.
We appreciate that outlook.
Yeah.
But
at a community camp, like if you get 3 groups roll in and then just hang out for 3 hours, maybe just, maybe think about that guy that just wants to get there and do something like, let's say the trade location. Somebody just wants to get in and get a trade, but they look and they see 15 people there. They're going to be like, yeah, I don't want to get into that because that just sounds bad. So have that in mind too, right? Like maybe don't mill about areas for hours on end.
Yeah, and I just
when there's
wanted
no
to
point.
finish my thing. So it's just essentially like, from where I'm understanding, A, we're gonna have more information soon, and B, it's just gonna be, it's more of like a group by group basis, not like multiple groups convening in one area, from what I'm getting, right? So like, it's just gonna be like, you know, if we have Ken or CC rolling around, like that would be the issue, not where it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
that would be
people
an
come
issue.
here from this group, and then another person comes from this group, and then we just have like a conglomerate of people. That'd be different. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Sorry. Thank you.
Doc, you're next up.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I'm pretty sure everything I was going to really ask got answered, honestly. But I think just to clarify, this is more of a, group by group type situation, right? We just kind of covered that exactly in there. So where it's organically, you're at a community camp and just don't linger, that kind of thing, common sense. But yeah, I can go ahead and pass on to whoever's next.
Well, that would be Iron Rick. Go ahead.
Thanks. Sounds like a great rule. I'm just curious if there will be a possibility for people to apply if they're doing an event or like a regular occurring thing. For example, ladies' night has been a really fun thing sometimes when they come through an area, no matter how many, but it's usually more than 5 people, and it's always kind of like a roaming, chaotic party. Will there be allowances for, I guess, now that I'm saying it out loud, you did say just having the group ask or notify in advance. So I probably should have
Hello?
thought more.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, it would be the same principle throughout the board, basically. Ask, and we'll give you an answer. Whether or not it's a fun event going around, roaming numbers are still kind of roaming numbers, so it's something to take into consideration. The reasoning behind it is important, but also the proportions of what you're doing and the numbers you're bringing need to be accurate and basically proportionate, right? So if ever you feel the need to have more than 5 people doing whatever, right? Ask a staff team member for bringing more numbers, and that should be it across the board. No hypotheticals, nothing like that. Just keep that in your mind and do that.
Yeah, my first thought was Warboy Wednesday, but we'll burn that bridge when we come to it. Anyone have anything else they'd like to say? Anything else they'd like to ask? Any clarification, etc.?
Sorry to bother. I just had a quick question. So when we leave a notice in advance, is there like a time period you would prefer? Like if a bigger group's roaming out before we do anything, like a day, a 2, maybe a week.
I would recommend talking to us before you post anything officially.
So
just so
and
that
would
we are
be
aware.
like a week from the event or a few days.
I'm telling you before you even start working on anything regarding the
Okay.
event. Just
Okay,
let us
okay,
know.
okay.
So again, just so everyone's on the same page before you push on and stuff's already in place. Because
Yeah,
we don't
thank you.
want to entirely just snuff out every little thing. The whole point of this was to make sure that as many people on the server are on a even playing field as much as possible. And we know that numbers play a big part in bringing an imbalance to a lot of things, be it PvP events and just even a basic interaction. You could be the goodest of groups of best intentions, where you could be the worst of bad guys with the most malicious of intent. But as far as we're concerned, it's for stuff like that. It's not your intent; it's the numbers behind that intent. If that makes sense.
Of course. Thank you very much.
All right. Anyone else have input they'd like to throw in? Because if not, that is once again, the last topic we have here. Of course, unless there's anything anyone would like to add, but otherwise...
I'd like to emphasize the fact that these things, though they were technically considered under the group and faction etiquette up until now, these things are now what we're going to hold as a standard and as a rule for the wide broadness of the whole server. So this goes for unofficial groups, unofficial parties, everybody along those lines. Not just official groups and factions. Everybody should try to stay underneath these guidelines within the rules, and everybody should be on the same page when it comes to this.
Well, if no one else has anything they'd like to add, then that is about it from me. So, assuming no one else has anything to say, then you are officially dismissed from class.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
See ya.
All said.
Yep.
What do I click to leave?
You just
Alt
close.
F4.
You just close down TeamSpeak, the little X in the top right.
Depends on where you want to go.
Very much appreciate that. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Fox, can you link me the topics, please?
They are in the community meetings channel, but I think I can copy a link to this channel and put it in here.
What kind of name is that?
Thank you. What name?
Your name.
Zion?
You got a problem with it, boy? I mean, fucking Doc?
And that's how we're ending the recording.